Malcolm, let's get into this OpenAI target miss story, because this is making headlines in an unusual way to me, where it's like OpenAI misses earnings, OpenAI misses targets. And the story from the Wall Street Journal follows, quote, OpenAI recently missed its own targets for new users and revenue, stumbles that have raised concern among some company leaders about whether it will be able to support its massive spending on data centers, end quote. I am skeptical about the rationale to leak this stuff, but also leak it without numbers. But when you saw this, what was I know you had a strong impression of it, so I'll let you go first and then I'll trample on your take with my own thoughts.
Well, my first big complaint was that it dropped right as we were about to get earnings reports from 4 of the hyperscalers. So the 4 companies that all are spending or committed to spending the most on building out their AI infrastructure reported within 80 seconds of each other on Wednesday. And so on Tuesday, the Wall Street Journal releases this report that OpenAI isn't actually hitting its growth targets the way that it expected it would by now, which can't be good for any of the hyperscalers, especially the ones that are inextricably linked to OpenAI, a la Microsoft and Oracle. And so that's why I was saying the timing of this, and I don't mean to sound like a conspiracy theorist, I'm just saying the timing of it sucked. And so thankfully, there wasn't a ton more reporting after it. So you take it how you take it, this report from the journal. But I do think it's telling that in its response, OpenAI didn't come back and say, we have hit our internal goal of X. We hit it back on this date and we're off to the races. They said, all is well, nothing to see here. And you also have at the same time some very clear fracturing in the relationship between Sarah Fryer, the CFO, and the CEO of the company, Sam Altman, where they're trying their best to sing from one sheet of music, but they're also very clearly not seeing the same picture when they look at these numbers.
I've never seen more leaks between a CFO and a CEO for a company.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of smoke there.
There's a lot of smoke and it's very odd, and to be clear, OpenAI, their statement said there is no truth to the idea of a rift between Fryer and Altman on computing resources. My question with this is, I guarantee the journalist who reported this said, okay, what were the targets and how much did you miss them by? Because when you publish this, it's the whoever leaked this did not leak any of the specific numbers, in my view. Otherwise, those would have been reported. So if you're going to leak that you're missing targets, why are you not leaking the numbers associated with that? Because
it's also possible, though, that the numbers couldn't have been substantiated in time for the article to release when this journalist and their editor wanted it to be released. It's
totally fair. I mean, what's going on in the background is you get an inside source who's an anonymous source, and the journalist knows who it is, the editor knows who it is, and they come together and they're like, this person is solid. But, anytime you're getting information like that leaked to you, the person doing the leaking has motivations. So who could be familiar with those financials? Is it a disgruntled employee? Is it someone who doesn't want the company to go public? They're in a huge legal battle right now. Is it someone who could be pissed off that it's not a nonprofit anymore? I wonder, and I think the journalist is doing good work. My question is the motivations of the person who's doing the leaking in this scenario. Because at the end of the day, you're leaking material, non-public information about your company, which bad.
Well, as a private company, literally everything you do is material, non-public information at this point, because you don't have public disclosure requirements. And so everything is behind the curtain. That said, I also think maybe as a person on the inside who's watching all this unfold, you feel a certain sense of duty to let the public know what's actually going on inside, right? There's a reason whistleblower hotlines exist, because there's always that person or a few people inside of an organization that feel a higher calling to call out some BS. And so this could also just be that. It's a lower level person who isn't privy to the actual numbers the way that the CFO would be, who has enough knowledge to say, this is nonsense. Like this can't go on.
So one of the ideas I've been thinking about a lot this week is called meta deception. And I think that's why I'm kind of harsh on this a little bit more than usual. Meta deception is this idea that you have a layered deception that obscures its own existence to make a magic trick feel possible. And I think sometimes that could happen with, and I'm not saying it's going this way. What if OpenAI now goes on to exceed some metric and announce it publicly? Oh, wow, that looks even better because you have leaked information saying they couldn't do that. They couldn't possibly do that. Or you're the CEO of a company and you're kind of quietly telling analysts like, I think our earnings per share targets are going to be somewhere between the 35 cent, 38 cent range. And then on earnings day, whoa, it's at 40 cents. You beat the estimates by 2 cents. How could that possibly be done? And it's because you're building this in. In Magic, it works with, do you know Oz Perlman? So I don't want to, there's this guy's named Stevie Baskin, drops in out of nowhere, just spawns up on YouTube with a 5-hour video talking about meta deception and how Perlman uses a lot of like pre-show activity and sort of layered deception in order to make some of his tricks feel like impossible miracles in the moment. And to be clear,
I'm sorry, did you mean to say a 5-hour video?
Yeah. Guy comes in.
Disrespectful, but carry on.
I thought I was going to watch 30 minutes of it. I'm like 2 hours and 40 minutes in. I'm not sitting down and watching the whole thing at once, but I'm fascinated by this guy. It's got like 400,000 views right now, and also shows that sometimes you don't need to follow all of the content rules you see in LinkedIn or editing advice you get on AI, but you better make sure it's good. And anyway, so his point is that like you can have these layered deceptions to make things feel like, so the trick ends up happening in public where you have stuff going on behind the scenes. And I think that happens often. There's a parallel that happens often in just like the way that public companies can break news, building relationships with journalists. You kind of grease the wheels, and then you're trying to pull off something down the road that creates a surprise in the moment.
I think Oz Perlman is the one who was the entertainment for the White House Correspondents' Dinner that got interrupted by the active shooter response, right?
Yeah.
I find it, I was watching, I think it was Jon Stewart, a clip of Jon Stewart that was like, what would have been a more impressive...
A timely guess?
Yeah, like it would have been much more impressive if you said, everybody to the exits. Like, that then we would believe you.
And the controversy is that he claims his abilities come from his, I don't read minds, I read people. I'm a body language expert. And you can... Honestly,
I don't care though. Like when I go to see a magic show, I've never gone to see a magic show, but assuming in the future one day I'm bored enough to do so.
Whoa. Okay, keep going. We're gonna go off the script.
I have come into this thing wanting to be entertained and wanting to be mesmerized. So when I see him do his thing, I'm not trying to be so skeptical that it's not entertaining. I'm wanting to be wowed. Like I saw him on CNBC one day, doing this trick where basically he got the anchor Scott Wapner to say the ticker as it was coming across the price action of a particular company that he also conjured up himself. That was fascinating to me. I don't care how he made it work. So like that's how I feel about a magic trick.
He's really good. The controversy is that if you go see someone like Penn and Teller, they're like, we are performing a magic trick right now. And the thing with Oz, the controversy is that he says, my abilities do not come from gimmicks or magic tricks. They come from my ability to read people.
Because I'm a mentalist.
Because I'm a mentalist. So that's where it bends the reality a little bit. And that's kind of where you get that meta deception I was referring to. But oh my gosh, dude, go to a magic show. If you see a good sleight of hand magic trick close up, you as cool as you are right now, you will squeal. It is so cool when you see something impossible happening before your eyes like that. It is awesome.
But I'm also coming to it knowing this is some Michigats. So like, do I really need to see it up close to feel any different than I do when I watch it on TV when I say, yeah, that was cool, but I know that's
nonsense. Are you kidding me? Do you need to see stand-up? Is there a difference between seeing a stand-up comedy special on Netflix versus in person?
Depends on the comedian, I guess.
This is going to drive me nuts. We have a show together.
Like, there's several comedians that I can die having never seen them perform live, and I'd be like, all right.
I'm saying good comedians, not the exception to the rule. Anyway, I want to get back to OpenAI, because here's something with OpenAI that kind of drives me nuts, where they're like, you have insiders saying we are literally summoning a portal to get to aliens. We are doing the most advanced stuff in the world. And then sometimes when you use the platform, have you ever done the voice stuff with OpenAI?
Nah.
Okay. So there's still things with the software where it's an insider leaking to Ronan Farrow that they're basically building a portal to summon these otherworldly aliens or demons. But also when I use the platform right now, hey, OpenAI, I'm about to run a mile. Can you time it?
Absolutely. I can time you. Just let me know when you're starting and I'll keep track. Once you finish, I'll let you know your time. Good luck.
Okay, I'm starting right now.
Got it. I'm timing you. Just keep me posted on when you finish, and I'll let you know how you did. Keep up the good pace.
1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm back from my mile. How long was that?
Awesome job. What was your start and finish time so I can calculate it for you?
No, you were supposed to keep track of the time.
You're right. I should have been more clear.
That's okay. I'll run again. Let's go. I'm starting right now.
Perfect. I'll be ready this time. Start when you're ready, and I'll keep track from there. You got this.
I'm starting right now. Please start the timer.
All right. The timer is starting now. I'll track it, and as soon as you finish, just let me know, and I'll give you your time. Keep going strong.
Okay, I'm back from my mile. How long was that? Thanks for keeping track of the time.
Of course. So based on the start and finish, it looks like you completed your mile in 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Great job.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So that's where we're at in terms of like AI as well. And for those who,
let me just tell you,
yeah.
I'm not wearing these clothes just because I want to look like somebody who does a thing. I'm actually going running after this. If I could pull off a 7:45 mile at this time of day with no problems, like, I've done what I needed to do as a runner. So hats off to you, man, for pulling that off so quickly.
And for those listening to the show, I did not leave my desk at any point. And that I should give credit. There's a great Instagram account called Husk IRL that does these sort of like tricks with AI and does these comedy bits that are awesome. But that's where I got that idea from. And there's still some holes to get through before we get to super intelligence. Or maybe I'm just not getting the version of it, which is very possible. All right, let's do big tech earnings. They all report on Wednesday evening. I checked out Meta, but what were your general thoughts as you've checked those out?
Yeah, I agree with your thought that you shared with me before, that cloud's still king. It is the most important storyline to this whole thing. We talked earlier last show about the idea that companies are having to lay off employees to be able to fulfill the debt service related to all of what they're building. The concern that I have now is I hear companies now increasing their CapEx numbers that we thought couldn't get any bigger than they are today, is what will you cut next? So you've cut free cash flow. Your free cash flow is now zero. You're spending it all on CapEx. Now you're cutting headcount so that you can afford the debt that you took out to fill the gaps. What are you going to cut next to make these spending commitments as you increase them going forward?
Probably more employees. Is that your option? Like that's the only other option of things you can cut, right?
But there will come a time then when all you have is your corporate office and a bunch of data centers and nobody in between.
And what do you do if you're laid off from that? You roll the dice on the next Micron. I mean, I looked into Meta, and the street is worried about how much money they're spending on artificial intelligence. I think that one of the things that was underreported is that the average price for their ads is up 12% year on year. And for as much as Mark Zuckerberg likes to talk about his grand visions regarding the metaverse and wearables and whatever else he has on his mind, the company makes, I think it's like, what is it? It's between 95 and 99% of their money on advertising. So if they're able to jack up prices like that because of the artificial intelligence going into their ads, that's the real story for Microsoft. And that's why you're seeing things like a 30% growth in operating income, which is just
Meta?
what?
You mean Meta?
Meta. Did I say Microsoft? My bad.
Yeah.
Meta has a 30% year-on-year increase in operating income for a company that already has half the world staring at its apps every single day. That's pretty impressive. And also, it's just like, to me, it stood out that you have Zuckerberg making this, like, he's trying to do this Walt Disney AI vision, telling people, quote, "We've always wanted our apps to understand more of people's goals so we can help improve their lives in all the ways that you want. Malcolm, may all your dreams come true."
What he really means is we want you to be able to buy until your heart is content, which it never will be, because as we're serving you ads for things to go buy, we're interweaving images of your friends who are doing better than you in life, and you want to buy more to feel like you've reached the same station as they do. So there's a never-ending supply of things for you to go buy, which is what AI is actually helping you to accomplish. So I was digging into this, trying to understand why Meta's not falling into a hole. And what it is, the homegrown chatbot that they've spun up, I can't remember the name of it now. It's some offshoot of Llama, though, that actually lives in Facebook that you can interact with. But anyway, like, as you're asking it these queries, they want you to come to Facebook instead of going to Google to ask your questions. And as it spins up an answer for you, it's also going to use that to serve you ads a day later for the thing related to the thing you were just asking about. So as you're wanting to learn more about, I don't know, wingtip dress shoes, you're going to get ads specific to the wingtip dress shoes that fit your feet, that are available at your favorite store, blah, 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 blah. And so the targeting of these ads is so much better than what anybody else other than maybe Alphabet/Google can do, that is why they're seeing immediate return on investment from developing these different AI features. And so there is a direct correlation between money spent versus money earned. And I think that is the story that the street has been asking for and looking for an answer to. They clearly have it. I hope, for the sake of society, that I'm wrong and this thing hits a wall, because, I don't want the never ending pit of spending. But as a person who's just looking at the stock in the company, I can appreciate what they're building and their ability to extract even more value from every single one of their customers who advertises on the platform.
From a cold-blooded shareholder basis, I think if Mark Zuckerberg were willing to tell it plainly, he has the most compelling, "this is how we use AI to make money" story.
Yep.
Of any.
Yeah, except for maybe Alphabet.
Okay, fair.
Because they haven't told theirs yet, but I know they got way more data than even Facebook does.
And I mean, we'll see if an ad comes up on Instagram or Facebook. My phone screen is on right now, but I don't have any apps open. I am in the market for some real comfortable jeans. My jeans are old and I'm thinking about buying some. And so now I'm not going to search anything. We'll see what happens, and I'll report back next week. But yeah, your AI promises are either Apple, which is ? We'll see. You can, or Palantir, which is the era of soft power is over. All of you get ready to go to war for these AI ground wars we're about to enter. Or Meta, which is may all of your dreams come true as you continue to buy stuff on the platform, because your dream is either buying things here or getting enough attention on the platform. Make sure you like and follow our Instagram reels that you can start selling ads against other people's attentions, and we'll give you a little slice of that.
Yeah, you buy so much and you look so good in it that you can become an influencer on our other platform, and you can start selling ad-supported content on your influencer page. And then we get paid again because the company that wants you to influence others to be here longer is paying us. So it's a doom loop.
Make sure you like and subscribe so I can buy Micron shares. I also want to talk about anything else on big tech before I get to Starbucks.
So real quick, I think the story that's being missed right now amongst the hyperscalers is Amazon. Andy Jassy earlier in April made a comment publicly on a stage that Trainium, their chip company, could be a $50 billion company on its own if they were to focus entirely on selling those chips to the public. And I think that has gone under the radar. Still, the market reacted to it. Amazon shares are up pretty substantially this year. Before earnings, this past earnings release, it was up like 25, 26%. So don't get me wrong, people are paying attention, but $50 billion for a tertiary business that is not your first focus, which is e-commerce, is not your second focus, which is AWS. It's not even your third focus because Amazon advertising is actually more substantial right now. So it's the fourth business inside this megapolis, and it's worth $50 billion by their estimation. That's larger than Broadcom. So
the 50 billion?
Sorry, what they're generating revenue-wise is larger than Broadcom.
On these chips.
Okay,
gotcha.
So to me, that is where the opportunity lies when we say what's next if I'm trying to figure out how to find an underappreciated AI story that has a lot of the downside already covered.
Where everyone is looking for the next underappreciated AI story.
And everybody wants to buy Qualcomm, everybody wants to buy Intel. But to me, like, this is a very clean and complete story where we get all of this AI infrastructure and big tech know-how. And then you get this little online e-commerce platform thrown in for free, just for kicks.
And this is also, well, it's not for free. So 50 billion is a lot of money. It's about 17% of Amazon's market cap, if you call it a $50 billion company. But the companies you mentioned, Broadcom, Micron, that's the type of thing where, we've seen our chip sales explode 300% year on year. So it's the kind of thing where it's not impossible that, there's an insatiable demand for these chips now that we've started really opening it up to the public with this side hustle.
Well, think about it too in terms of their install base, right? AWS basically supports anything that Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure doesn't. And so the way NVIDIA earns its money is once you're in the NVIDIA ecosystem and you've bought the chips, you also need NVIDIA software to be able to maintain it all. And you've got AWS that now has homegrown chips that are showing some legitimacy that keep you in the ecosystem where you have to stay within AWS, even as we increase the price, because now you've got our chips embedded in your data center and you've got to keep running your model. The switching cost is too high at this point. Yep. So they're developing their own ecosystem in a way that not a lot of other companies are able to do at this point because you can't go build it from scratch.
Plus, I mean, on the advertising point, I do think this is meaningful. I think they have the best. When I'm watching NBA on Prime, I think it's the best advertising platform, which I have not done this yet. But here, watch this commercial on your Amazon Prime account. And if you click here, it automatically adds it to your cart. One more click and we'll send it to your door, which I think is pretty incredible in terms of just removing all friction.
Shopping from your TV is the holy grail as far as advertisers are concerned. It's a really big thing in China and almost nowhere else. They've cracked the code on people buying directly from their remote control and the screen on the wall. And that is the thing that all of these retailers would love for a platform or two to figure out how they're going to do. YouTube TV, obviously owned by Alphabet, is in similar situation. They're trying to figure out how to, right now it's still scan this QR code to purchase the thing. But to your point, because I can buy directly from the Amazon marketplace, if I'm watching something on Prime Video, it's immediately less friction than it would be on any other platform. And so again, to me, that's the missed opportunity amongst the hyperscalers, is we're not paying enough attention to just how much value Amazon is now able to extract out of all of these investments they've been making over the last 5 or so years.
And this was your big, I think, stock pick of the year when we were doing one in January. You've been hot on Amazon for a while. This is not a new story, nor have investors. Meaning investors have liked Amazon for a while. All right, that concludes our Gary V live shopping advice corner. No, it doesn't. One more thought. Okay. They need to stop doing luxury goods as much for the click to buy. It needs to be it needs to be smaller purchases. I think when you're doing a mass market, buy this right now. There needs to be more ads for things that are under $50. Is my hot take. I'm not ready to buy Bose headphones just by watching a quick commercial, but maybe I'm ready to buy more paper towels. This is where P&G should be rocking right now. You need more toilet paper? Yeah, click here.
This episode is sponsored by Capital Area Planning Group. Capital Area Planning Group is a fiduciary wealth management firm that specializes in helping high net worth individuals and families navigate the complexities that come along with managing concentrated stock options, multiple income streams, and an ever-changing tax code. While our team of certified financial planners are well-versed in all things personal finance, our areas of expertise include equity compensation, estate planning, and multi-year tax planning. At Capital Area Planning Group, we believe in pricing transparency. That's why our fees are posted on our website, right alongside the various services we perform on behalf of our clients throughout the year. If you're tired of receiving the same cookie-cutter advice from your financial advisor, then don't wait. Reach out to us today at capgllc.com to experience a better approach to wealth management. Again, that web address is www.capgllc.com.
Starbucks. The Brian Nichols sauce is working. That's what we're seeing in the earnings. Global comparable sales stores have increased over 6%, primarily driven by an increase in comp transactions. That's people walking through the door, about 4% there. This is a rare example where operating margins decline and the earnings are up from the prior year because they're getting more people through the door. This company is not quite the K-shaped economy, but it's pretty close. You know, Brian Nichols saying this is the simple everyday luxury, and that makes a lot of sense. You know, even if you're not doing super well off like some of their customers are, you still want to go into Starbucks and get your little treat. And the one part that feels K-shaped to me is that their delivery business is up 30% year to date, which feels, if you're having Starbucks delivered to your door, I hope that is a K-shaped thing.
So funny enough, that sounds like the whole lipstick thing. During a recession, everything's down, people are feeling bad, but sales of lipstick goes up because it's the one thing you can do to make yourself feel better.
Yeah.
I think there's an addiction to food delivery that's at the heart of what you're describing that is separate and apart from any economic function. I think we as society now, thanks to COVID, have been conditioned and have decided to allow ourselves to pay whatever it costs to have food items brought to us at any time of day. Like if you look at, I can't remember whether it's DoorDash or Uber Eats that focused on like late night and overnight delivery from your favorite bodega down there, like whatever. And they're having like these $4 items delivered for $20. And they're seeing like a spike in those kinds of things happening. And so like, I don't know that the drink delivery piece should be considered only the folks at the top of the K are doing it. Yeah. I think it's very possible that someone leaves their Instacart job, goes home, clocks out, and then turns on the Uber Eats app and has food delivered to them.
That's dark.
Because I think that we just are that addicted to having things show up at our houses and also the convenience of having food brought to us instead of having to go get it.
I think it's less the Uber Eats driver and more the work from home worker.
Okay.
Who doesn't want to leave on a Wednesday. I mean,
that's possible and probable as well.
If I ever become president of the United States, if you order Starbucks delivery more than 3 times in 1 week, your entire delivery thing shuts down, and the only thing you can get delivered next to you is the 3-gallon or the 3-pound tub of ground coffee beans from Costco. That's the only thing you can order next.
So I don't like the 3-pound tub of Costco coffee.
I'm drinking it right now.
Because they only sell the dark roast at Costco, and I don't like it.
Great.
However, I do actually buy a giant 2-pound bag of coffee from Amazon, have it delivered on a schedule, and just grind it and make it at home. So I'm in the same boat as you.
Sure. I'm okay with that. And then I'm also throwing stones right now, but I'll get things on Amazon where I get like a hand soap refill. I'll get that on Amazon because you're giving me a better price than if I go to a normal store. And now I've had this feeling where I go into a store and I'm like, I have shown up to you to make things easier. And now you're giving me a significantly worse price than if I had someone get in a truck and deliver it to me from an Amazon warehouse. Am I a fool right now? Back to Starbucks. Speaking of back to Starbucks.
I have had that feeling too. You're not alone.
Yeah. The loyalty program is also working where, they revamped it and they have this thing where if you get 60 stars on their card, which I think is about $30 worth of spending, they give you $2 off drinks. And so what Nichols said in the latest earnings is that's led to a growing number of people visiting 4 or more times per week, 4 or more. And it's because, hey, I'm going into Starbucks. I'm going to come in a ton because now I'm basically ripping you off by getting $2 off per drink. And Brian Nichols like, yeah, great. Keep coming in. We'll give you that special deal. And I mean,
you know what's funny? I stopped using the rewards thing, the card in the app.
Yeah.
Because they got stingier with the rewards, and it takes so many swipes to actually get anything that my points kept expiring. And I was like, screw you, Starbucks. I'm not even using this thing anymore.
Well, now it's back, and then we're going to have you get addicted again, visiting 4 times per week. And there's also a valuation question now with the company. I own shares, if you can't tell already. 80x times trailing earnings, 42 times forward, but this is an expensive coffee shop, and I also think it is a trust the jockey situation. Brian Nichols is pretty good about extracting shareholder value from, or not just extracting shareholder value. That's cynical. He's really good at leading large food and drink operations. So that's kind of where I'm at.
The one thing I will say in support of that is this is obviously defensible against AI. AI cannot pour a delicious cup of coffee, pour it down my throat, and give me that jolt every morning. And so from that perspective, I can see why you would want to own it as an investor.
It's that's coming. That's coming. The humanoid robot jolting coffee down your throat is coming. One of the questions he was asked, and this gets to a broader point, is that they were like, you know, people are trying to find the hooks for the Iran war. And it makes sense. There's a global energy crisis. This is a huge economic story. And the question that showed up in Starbucks was, you know, are higher gas prices affecting your customers? And they didn't quite dance around it, but it was saying, we're not seeing it yet, but it's not impossible that in the future, if people are paying $5 for gas, that cuts down on their Starbucks consumption. And I thought it played into this story, this article by Nir Kassiar in Bloomberg that said, well, U.S. stocks will keep ignoring the Iran war. And he points out that basically everything, in fact, is driven by AI, not this war, which I would argue against a bit because there are times you see the S&P 500 jump on war news. But his point was that the average price of oil is up about 40% since the start of this war. In the 1970s crisis, that price more than doubled. And when the cold shareholders look at this, about 30% of S&P 500 revenues come from overseas, and about 3% of that is attributable to the Middle East and Africa. And I think that's a pretty primary reason we're seeing investors kind of shrug this off for now, unless it spreads outside of the Middle East.
So I think two things that conflict with each other simultaneously. One is I can clearly see where the market just is shrugging it off and doesn't care. And I think the reason is, to your point, like, it's tech, it's AI, and that's all that matters as far as the earnings story is right now. So my initial concern coming into earnings was you get a company like a Walmart, Costco, a Dick's Sporting Goods that talks about how much fuel costs have increased their expenses, which obviously brings down their profits. But I'm realizing the reason nobody cares is because you weren't really going to contribute that much to the earnings story this quarter anyway. It's all about the chips and how much their gross margins and how much their earnings per share is adding to the entire equation. So if we had the hyperscalers plus 3 chip names, so the Big 10, the Mag 10, all report and everybody else got to skip the earnings period, the market wouldn't even care.
Yeah.
However, everything is up to a point. And so where you hear about the airline saying, you know, we've had to take a $4 billion charge because fuel prices are that high this past quarter, and we see it continuing for God knows how long. Well, now that's going to affect summer travel, because those of us who are planning to take a vacation this summer are booking the tickets for that, hopefully right now. Hopefully people are not waiting until the last minute like I tend to do, and they're actually pre-planning those vacations. So that is where it starts to show up, where you say, well, shoot, maybe we don't take this vacation to wherever we were going to go. Maybe we don't drive cross country like we expected to, because gas is now $6 a gallon in California. So it takes some time to work through the system. But if this conflict persists the way that it is, and oil prices stay above $100 a barrel for as long as it seems like they will, that will eventually hit a wall and everything seems like it's coming crashing down all at once. But in reality, it's been a slow build that we've been ignoring because we were seeing what we wanted to see, which was growth in data center investment, growth in cloud revenues.
One of the stocks that plays in with data centers is Micron. And we had a question from a listener a few shows back. Legitimate friend of the show, Alex Tran 3434 asked us on Spotify. He wanted you to dig in to your Micron skepticism a little bit because, I mean, this is a company that's up about 587%, over the past 12 months. And yet the actual, just on an earnings basis, it's cheaper than Starbucks. It's about 25 times trailing earnings. It's at 9 times forward earnings because the memory chips that they are selling have just exploded in demand. So even at almost 600% increase over 1 year, parts of the valuation could look and smell like a value stock. But you've expressed skepticism on the company.
I'm actually not even sure what I said about Micron that would have been considered skeptical. I probably was referring to Micron stock, which is not necessarily the same as the company itself, or Micron shareholders, because they are different too from the stock and from the company. But my skepticism with Micron has more to do with how much it's run up in the past month and also the past three months consecutively, and how much more room there is for it to go from there. So Micron's gross margins, I think, came in around 71% or so in the last earnings period that they reported, which was second to only NVIDIA. And the question becomes, okay, they show us gross margins now of 75%, let's say, and they're knocking on NVIDIA's doorstep, or they're even crossing 80%, and they've surpassed NVIDIA with how much they're able to squeeze out of each customer. Is there more room for them to go to impress the street for the stock to continue to respond the way that it has? That's really what's been my skepticism with Micron and NVIDIA and a few of the other chip names that have run up significantly in the last couple of months on no new developments and no new chip designs. It's all still last year's story.
Yeah, but can't you just impress with demand if your forward P is 9 times forward earnings? Like this isn't something where a lot of the growth, the growth being pulled forward relative to the previous demand is still pretty low. This isn't something where we're talking about a company with 60 to 120 times forward earnings after tripling revenue or whatever.
So the challenge too, though, is that there's a limit to how much these companies are able to produce on an annual basis. And so you being sold out and you having $1 trillion worth of remaining performance obligations means absolutely nothing to me if you can't actually fulfill on those remaining performance obligations. So that is another one of the questions that's starting to come up related to the chip space is like there are capacity constraints. You have Taiwan Semi that's saying we can't treat any one customer better than the customers we already have. We have to give you your assigned place in line because it's not advantageous to us to treat anybody better and alienate any one customer. So then that means everybody else in that line has to wait their turn and their capacity constrained. So until another foundry comes along here in the US, maybe Intel's finally trying to participate in that story. I doubt it, but maybe Intel's finally trying to participate in that story. There's still a limit on how many chips can actually be shipped. And that is a limitation on how much Micron can actually grow.
So basically what you're saying is the capacity is so constrained that you can be sold out as much as you want, but these foundries can't produce the chips that they're making. And so your only lever at that point is pretty much price increases.
100%.
Okay.
Beyonce and Taylor Swift can sell out as many arenas as they want to, but the arena is the constraint on how many people they can sell tickets to on any one night. So you can charge more for those tickets, but that arena still only has 20,000, 50,000, 80,000 seats in it.
All right. Happy trails to Tim Cook. We have not spoken about this on the show. I know you have thoughts on it. He is going to become the former CEO of Apple. He's still sticking around as chairman. The new CEO will be a product guy, John Turnus. But first on Tim Cook is one of the most historic runs as a public company CEO how will you remember the Tim Cook era?
So it's up in the air, obviously, right? But the two things that I think are conflicting, well, there's three things on Tim Cook that I think are conflicting with each other. One is there's still the criticism of him by, I don't know if you call them purists or what you call them, but the people that say he's not a product guy, he's no Jobs. Like this far, 15 years into his tenure, there's still the people that will use that as a knock against him. Separately from that, the company didn't release any new earth-shattering products that, really changed the game under his leadership the way that they did under Jobs. Yes. However, they did go from hundreds of billions of dollars as a valuation to $4 trillion under his leadership. Now, for those that will say that's because he is very good at financial engineering and has been one of the most aggressive share buyer backer of any publicly traded company CEO of all time, I completely agree with that. Apple has made itself a great financial engineering company in addition to product engineering. Also, him moving operations solely to China and getting the cost of each unit that they produce down as much as they possibly could, and moving to a place like China where you have just as much, trying to think of a nicer way to say, like the grunt work. You have people who can do like the grunt work related to building the phones. You have just as much of that kind of talent as you do engineering talent and the people that actually need to know the really complex, complicated things related to developing that supply chain and building the factories and the infrastructure. And so that's kind of unique to China. And so it made a ton of sense that he moved the company there. So that is also part of his legacy, which no one was surprised by because supply chain and logistics was sort of his claim to fame when he took over. The third thing that competes with all of that is his last year and a half to 2 years in the seat as chief diplomat, and the way that he has interacted with the Trump administration and the way that he has interacted with the Chinese government all along the way, solely for the purpose of making sure that Apple didn't get caught too much in the crossfire of either country that wants to control the outcome, but also either country that's at war with each other. And there's a war of words happening and there's this tug of war, and he's trying his best to, on both continents, toe the line and try not to alienate either leader. And like, he's been heavily criticized for that too. And I think some of it is going to take away from his legacy as the CEO of this company.
And the privacy side, I mean, when you go on an app now and they say, are you really sure? They give you the pop-up screen where they're like, hey, the way our business works is that we need to track you for everything you do on your phone. So you're about to see this pop-up screen with Apple, and just say you're cool with it. Just say, just do us a solid and let me see every single thing you search on Facebook. And there's a version of that where some other phone makers do not give you that option. And Apple has put user privacy a little more front and center than I would say other companies.
I'm hopeful that with the incoming CEO, Turnus, because he's homegrown, like he's been at Apple for 25 years or something, he will continue that same ethos, because that is one of the mainstays of being within the Apple ecosystem. And that is, to your point, a selling feature that they're able to keep people in that ecosystem for. Because you say, yeah, they're behind Google on X, Y, and Z, but at least I don't have to worry about them selling me out. If he shows that there's some wavering in that, you could see a significant amount of defections to competitor products immediately, because that's kind of the last straw, I think, for Apple users.
Next challenges for John Turnus coming in as CEO. Challenge number one is how do you handle the CEO still as your chairman of the company? That's a great mentorship, but there's always going to be some, when you have big personalities like that, which I'm the new boss, you're the old boss, I'm going to do things my way. Might be a little tension there.
How long do you think he stays on as chairman?
I don't have a good prediction. If I make it up, I'll say 12 months. Because
I didn't have a thought initially when I heard the announcement until I saw him publicly saying don't worry, I'm as healthy as a horse. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be here for a really long time. Yeah. You have me as your chairman. I was like, nobody asked you that, though. And so now that makes me suspicious and skeptical of how long he's going to be willing to serve in that role. I give it a year.
And there's also, there's power dynamics with all of this, which is presidents pick vice presidents who seem slightly less capable than them. You don't want someone who outshines the master.
Are you accusing him of Igering his successor?
That's how you end up with that's how we go down the rabbit hole, Malcolm, to Tim Walz is your proposed vice president of the United States. And if you want to do the timeline, you can. No, I think it's just a powerful person theory. Iger, Jack Welch. You can think of other CEOs in there as well. Mark Benioff. Do you think Mark Benioff wants the next CEO of Salesforce to do just as well as he can?
All right. So Mark Benioff is a unique situation because he wasn't even willing to promote himself to executive chairman and make it look like he was going
co-CEO.
Away. He made his successor a co-CEO, which obviously didn't work out. That guy's off somewhere running a startup, competing to some degree against Salesforce. So forget that. Okay.
Ohana, let's get back to Apple. 3 challenges I see for John Ternus as CEO of Apple. 1, do you diversify your supply chain out of China? Number 1, that's going to be tough. Number 2, do you need a next big thing of a product?
100%.
And number 3, can you fix Siri with AI? People want to see an agentic Siri, and that could be a nice little release that he does.
So I think the answer is you do all of the above at one time. That is how you plant your flag as there's a new sheriff in town, because he's a product guy. He's an engineer by training, and that's where he's been focusing, is the engineering side of each of these products. He's not necessarily the design guy. And so I think there's a world where you could develop a new phone or some other new product that is AI native, even using homegrown chips if you don't want to get them from Qualcomm or whoever, that allows you to do some of the complex computation that right now lives in a data center. Instead, do it on the device. Forget going to the edge and doing it on the cellular network. Do it on the device. Really impress us with how great I don't know where we are, M1 or M3 or M12 chip, whatever. Do that on that device, build it in India so that you're not reliant at all on China, doesn't disrupt that supply chain at all, and do it with a Siri that is actually an agent and can do something to help you plan your day, because there's so much data on how we actually spend our time and what our preferences are. As much as we love to believe that we're individuals and we make these decisions on a daily basis that are unique and different, there's obviously a pattern to most of the things that all of us do, that AI is uniquely equipped to pull that all together and make predictions and assumptions about us. Bring that to me, right? I know on Wednesdays you wake up at this time to do this thing. I've already turned on the coffee pot because I know you'll be up earlier than usual. I want them to build that thing that wows us to the point where we go, holy crap, Apple really is, again, at the forefront of what I want AI to be and how I want to interact with AI.
You need that like a true smart home model, something like a concept car, something to get the people going.
100%. And you've already got the install base. I can do it from my iPhone. Or you can create some other device that's meant for the home that all of our phones and iPads and computers and everything else interact with. That's the tie-in, so that when I get home or I get in my car, because I got Apple CarPlay in my car already, right? There's a world where Siri can actually be the brains to my whole operation and function like Jarvis in the Iron Man movies.
Yeah. Link it up to your calendar. Buzz me when I need to go to the airport or when a meeting should be wrapping up. I am at Rick So Slick on X. You can also find me on Instagram, where I'm posting more clips of the show as we try to monetize this for our AI overlord, Mark Zuckerberg, the true boss of this show. You can find Malcolm at Malcolm on Money. Thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far and you want to do one thing that helps the show, legitimately, not cynically, leaving a rating where you listen on something like Apple Podcasts, or even a comment on Spotify. If you want to respond to anything we said, we check them out. That helps, build some action for the show. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Information shared in this recording and by its guests represent the views and opinions of the guests and does not represent the views or opinions of the host. This content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. This content is not, nor is it intended to be a substitute for professional financial advice. It is always recommended that you seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your personal financial situation.